Chapter 14, Your History. Let's just say Miss Crenshaw is big on class participation. Cheater told me. I found out what he meant the moment I walked into a room. The teacher was right inside the doorway handing out costumes. Hi, you must be the new boy, she said, shoving a white and fluffy bundle into my hands. This is a voluntary class. Anyone who doesn't want to attend can choose to go to a traditional lecture with Mr. Ludovico across the hall. I looked at my lump of fluff. It was a white wig. All I could manage to say was, huh? You get to be Thomas Jefferson today, Miss Crenshaw said, smiling like she'd just told me I'd won the lottery. She handed another wig to Torchy. You're George Washington, she said. A puff of powder drifted between his hands. Then Miss Crenshaw thrust a folded piece of cloth towards Flinch, who grimaced and pulled away at first, but finally took it from her. Not Martha again, Flinch said, letting the dress flop open between his fists. Please, I hate being Martha. I was Martha twice last week. Can't I be Ben Franklin? Miss Crenshaw just kept smiling and said, Now that's not a very helpful attitude. Every role is important. There are no small parts. I'm sure you don't want to let others down, do you? Flinch looked around. Hey, would any of you feel left down if I didn't play Martha Washington? The poor kid. Once we saw how much he didn't want to play the part, there was no way we were going to help him get out of it. We're counting on you, Martha, Cheater said. Lucky, who had just walked in, said, Every country needs a mother. It's your duty, Flinch. Others joined in. Flinch never had a chance. A kid might help another kid who fell into a river, and a kid might help another kid search for a lost baseball, but there isn't a kid I've met who will help another kid out of a humiliating situation. We just aren't built that way. So I put on the wig and tried to act like Thomas Jefferson, not that I had a clue how to really do that. It was pretty much a wasted hour. We all walked around and talked about the Revolution. I'm pretty sure I didn't learn anything except that wigs are uncomfortable. I'd noticed that the tough kids who'd been in my other classes weren't in history. Miss Crenshaw had said that there was a choice. I guess the thugs had decided they didn't want to wear costumes and wigs. As far as I was concerned, that was one good reason to stick with the class, no matter how crazy it seemed. All we had to do was walk around and make sure we used the vocabulary words the teacher had put on the blackboard. No trouble at all. Towards the end of the period, Miss Crenshaw asked us to sit down so we could discuss what we'd learned. I was just relaxing in my chair when someone shouted at me, Shut up! Just shut up! I looked over to my right. It was Lucky. He was glaring at me. But it was real spooky. I would have bet $1,000 that even though his eyes were pointed in my direction, he didn't see me. A hand tapped my shoulder. Don't worry about it, Torchy said. He does that sometimes. No one else seemed worried about it. I turned away from Lucky. Sure enough, a minute later, when I glanced back, he seemed okay. At the end of the period, as I was handing in my wig, Miss Crenshaw patted me on the arm and said, Well, Martin, did you enjoy our little class? All I had to do was nod and say yes. That would have been fine. 3 letters, 1 syllable, and I'd be out of there. Instead, I said, You must really have a desperate desire to be in the theater. I shook my head. This sure ain't Broadway, but it's as close as you will ever get. She looked like she wanted to hit me. Through gritted teeth, she said, You don't have to participate. You can attend the lecture instead. Would you like to do that? I shook my head. No, thanks. She continued to glare at me. It seemed I'd gotten another teacher to leave my fan club. That wasn't fair. I hadn't really said anything all that bad. At this rate, I need to start using pencil and paper to keep track of who hated me. Though with my luck, Torchy would set my list on fire. Does Lucky do that a lot? I asked Torchy when we left the room. Torchy shrugged. Not that much. You'll get used to it. He's really a good guy. Just make sure you don't make any comments about things being missing when he's around. He's really sensitive about that because he's always getting in trouble for stealing stuff. I'll keep that in mind. I glanced back into the room. Lucky was in the corner reaching into the wastebasket. I couldn't tell whether he was putting something in or taking something out. I guess it didn't matter either way. Anyone ever get out of here? I asked Torchy as we walked down the hall. Kids drop out when they get old enough, he said, or they get arrested and go to jail. That's only happened a couple of times when there were really bad fights. Principal Davis doesn't like to call the cops. You can graduate, of course, but that's no good because then you have to go to the alternative high school down in Danville, and that place is 10 times worse than here. No, I mean, does anyone ever get back to regular school? Well, there's the review, Torchy said. What review? I asked. Didn't you read your handbook? I thought about the charred paper in my wastebasket. I guess I couldn't blame Torchy. Even if he hadn't set it on fire, I'd already tossed the handbook out. Tell me about it. They get together at the end of your first month and discuss whether you should stay. After that, you're here for good. They? I asked. Your teachers, Torchy said, the ones you see in class. It's really not fair. There were 4 fires the day that I had my review. They blamed me for all 4. Can you believe that? I heard it was the quickest review in the history of the school. I was only half listening to Torchy. My mind was replaying my first meeting with each of my teachers. So far, I'd pretty much guaranteed that they'd hate me. 1 month. Maybe if I just kept my mouth shut and did my work, I'd have a chance. There was only 1 class left for the day. I promised myself, no matter what, I wouldn't make another teacher angry. It turned out to be a difficult promise to keep. All right, we got 1 more form. Okay, so here we go. This is Form 37C from Edgeview School for official use only, new student preliminary evaluation. And we just learned that all of these forms that we've been seeing as we've been reading, they've been from one of them from each of Martin's teachers after he meets them. So this one is from the evaluator Priscilla Nomad, that's the English teacher. And she says, student name Martin Anderson, evaluation. I love them all, of course, they need me, but this one may be an exception. So at the end of Martin's first month, the principal and all the teachers are gonna get together, they're gonna get all this paperwork together, and they're going to decide whether or not he's gonna stay at Edgeview, or if they think that he would be a good fit to go back to regular public school.